Hello, gents. Today I want to talk to you about Veterans Day. It should come as no surprise to you that I am a proponent of Veterans Day. I like honoring veterans. My favorite way to honor them, or my favorite veteran experience, is that time when you're at like a public gathering, some kind of event, and they ask everyone in the audience who's a veteran to stand up and everybody cheers. I really do like that moment, and I like looking around and cheering for the other veterans especially. That's my favorite part. I like to honor other veterans. And normally when I hear the word veteran or I hear Veterans Day, my mind doesn't go to me. My mind goes to other veterans that I really honor and revere. Like my grandpa, my uncle, my dad, my other grandpa, the veterans that I know and love that I look up to, and my fellow soldiers that I served with. That's typically who I think of when I think about Veterans Day. So a couple of things that I've heard before. I've heard people say, why don't veterans get the day off on Veterans Day? Well, some businesses do give veterans the day off, and it's usually small businesses. And if you own a small business, you can get away with doing that. I happen to work at a very big company that everyone has heard of, and they don't give the day off to veterans, and they can't. There's actually a really good reason for that. If my company and other large companies were to give veterans the day off, it wouldn't be long before every special interest group also wanted a day off. And they would say, well, veterans get the day off. Why can't we get the day off? And it would just keep going. So I don't begrudge the fact that I don't get a paid day off at work. And I really don't think it would work. But I do really appreciate and respect small companies that make that their policy or whatever. So now I want to show you some photos of me and my fellow soldiers when we were deployed in Iraq. And while I'm showing you these photos don't align with what I'm talking about. These are just pictures of us that I love. And most of these photos have a really awesome story behind them. And I could tell you some pretty cool stories that would make this video take forever. I'm not going to, but just enjoy these photos while I tell you the next couple of things. My platoon, I loved these guys. You know, you could take a group of guys like us that had a few things in common, but also didn't have a lot in common, and we were kind of misfits in a certain way. But you put us all together, and we go through this experience in Iraq. This was back in 2004, 2005. We grew very close as a group. We grew to love each other. We had each other's backs. Even though we would get on each other's nerves sometimes and piss each other off, we would stand up for each other forever. And you've probably heard other soldiers say things like that too. It was no exception with us. To this day, I have respect for all of these guys. And even though many of these guys I haven't talked to in 12, 13, 14 years, I think that I could still reach out to any one of these guys right now and instantly strike up a conversation. And if I needed help with something, I think any one of these guys would be there for me, and me for them too. That's kind of the bond you get when you serve together in a foreign country. Now, I want to just tell you guys one quick story that happened during this deployment. I really like this story. It's a fun one. I have some heavier stories, but I'm not going to tell those here. But this is more of a fun story. So one day, the governor of the province that we were in northern Iraq, he had a meeting with generals, and he was out doing his meeting all day. And he had this security group, like a bunch of gun trucks that were his security group, that were supposed to come pick him up from the base when he arrived back at our base to take him out to his compound where he lived in the town. But his security group didn't show up for whatever reason. They miscommunication or something. He gets back in the helicopter, lands on the base where we were, needs to get out to his compound, but needs security to get there. So they grabbed us, the MP platoon, and they tasked us to take him out to his compound, which was probably 5 or 6 miles from our base. The problem was they weren't good at giving directions. That really became the biggest problem. I was driving the lead Humvee, and I think we had 3 or 4 Humvees. The governor was in my Humvee, and he had his interpreter with him. The governor did not speak English. So we're driving through the town, and his interpreter is giving me directions as I drive the front Humvee because I don't know how to get where we're going. The interpreter and the governor, they didn't have a good system of getting those directions to me in time, though. So the governor would say something, and then the interpreter would say, turn left here or there, as we're like already past the turn. And this went on several times. It was very frustrating. So we're driving in circles. We're going around. It's not what you want to be doing in a situation where security is important. You don't want to be like circling around in the same area for a long time. But it's what we ended up doing. everybody was getting frustrated. I couldn't understand why the governor couldn't give his interpreter directions to give to me sooner so we could just get to where we were going. It turned into a major mess. But we finally did get to the compound. And when we pulled up to the compound, it had a gate that was down, and there was some guard there, and he didn't know why U.S. soldiers were pulling up to the governor's compound in Humvees. Like, we're all on the same team and stuff, but he just wasn't expecting us. So he comes, like, sauntering out to where we are to ask us what we're doing. I put my window down, and from the back seat, the governor just started screaming on the top of his lungs. He said something like that. That's what I remember. And whatever it was, I think you could loosely interpret it as I'm going to kill you and your entire family for not coming out to pick me up. I think that's what he said. Because that guard jumped and ran to that gate as fast as he could. He looked like he'd been shocked by electricity or something. He got to the gate, lifted it up so fast, he was signaling us to go in there. And as we're rolling into the gate, my gunner, Mumph, up in the gun, I hear him say, "Way to show your true colors, Gov." And it was just so funny. Like, in that moment, it was a high-stress moment. We were totally stressed out. We just saw this guard get threatened with his life. And then Mumph throws that little comment out there. And we knew the governor couldn't understand it, but we were trying so hard not to laugh. And as soon as the governor got out of our Humvee inside the compound, we were just busting up laughing. Me, Mumph, and our team leader, Waters, we were just laughing so hard. So this is what I want to ask of you. In the comments of this video, I want you to put the name of a veteran that you respect. If you want to put a few sentences about why you respect that veteran too, please do. I want to see their stories. Please share. I think that it's an awesome thing to celebrate veterans and honor them on Veterans Day. Thanks for watching. See you soon, gents.
It's January 30th, 2005. It's the day of the elections in Iraq. The much awaited elections where there's supposed to be so much violence. Well, there hasn't been much today. There's been a lot yesterday, but I guess they gave up. Giving you the whole 360 of the rooftop of this police building we're on. There's a little courtyard down below, and there's Kirkuk in all his glory. Okay, the end.